I don't know why I said margaritas, because I never had margarita in my life. I don't necessarily like that drink, but I guess it sounds good. And yeah, I do, imagine that, particularly the three of us. I mean, I do wish that, one day we'll, in a more relaxed environment, reflect on the rivalries and everything that we've achieved and made for this sport. I think it would be great for us, and I think for all the other people, knowing that we got together.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Wimbledon Day 4 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat.
Draper dumped out by Cilic.
Swiatek overcomes McNally challenge.
And Sinner steamrolls into round 3.
Kim, today is the 3rd of July, and we are here to catch up on Wimbledon Day 4 at Tennis Weekly HQ, brought to you by Babolat. Another big day at Wimbledon. And Kim, lots of results have happened today. Dramatic results, predictable results. But the one result I just keep thinking about, sadly, at the moment, is the Jack Draper result.
Well, I've been ruminating on Jack Pennington-Jones as well. No, it was not a good day for the Brits, it's fair to say. But we'll be getting on to Jack Draper and Novak Djokovic as well, Dan Evans, etc. Also previewing Sabalenka Raducanu ahead of tomorrow.
There is a bit of hope. There's a bit of prosperity there in the form of tomorrow, isn't there?
Yes, not
Cam Norrie.
Yeah, Sonny Cartel. So the British hopes
it's over
tomorrow.
To you.
Yeah, everything rests on you, because all the Brits that were in action today and the singles went out.
Our Wimbledon coverage is brought to you by Babolat.
Babolat is an official partner of Wimbledon and the racket of choice for defending champion Carlos Alcaraz.
And this year, Babolat are celebrating 150 years of youth, passion, and innovation, making the hearts of racket lovers worldwide beat faster.
And you can celebrate with Babolat at their 150 years Babolat booth on the grounds at Wimbledon.
Visit the booth to experience the history of the brand, see the exclusive Babolat Wimbledon collection, and put your volley to the test with their interactive target practice wall.
And don't forget to pop into their photo booth before you leave the grounds, so you can take home a special memory from your day at SW19.
And if you would like to purchase their official Wimbledon or 150-year collections, visit babolat.com today.
And let's start with Jack Draper, because, he was up against Marin Cilic, former finalist, former Queen's champion. We know he loves a grass court, and he showed that today, didn't he, out on court court 1, because he came through in 4 sets, ending Jack Draper's hopes of actually going further than he's ever gone before at this slam. He's not actually made it to the 3rd round yet, and that will remain so for another year. Joel, you watched this match in full. What was your overriding take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Marin Cilic, to me, played some fantastic tennis. We know he's such a classy opponent on a grass court. I mean, he won the Nottingham Challenger in the build-up. He's sort of been operating on the Challenger circuit, really, this season. But don't let that fool you, because his performance today was 10 out of 10. To me, eerily similar to what Alexander Bublik did to Jack Draper at the French Open. He just played out of his skin. I don't think anyone was really expecting that sort of performance from Cilic, but I feel like at the same time we should have been prepared a bit more because of what he's done on a grass court before. I mean, as you mentioned, he's been in a Wimbledon final. I was looking at some other results as well. He's pushed Roger Federer to 5 at Wimbledon. He's pushed Novak Djokovic to 5 at Wimbledon. So this was a tough test for Jack Draper on paper.
Draper on paper. I love the rhyme there. And also Cilic, some recent form, winning the Nottingham Challenger, which, albeit a challenger, it does indicate good form, especially for a player who's had this previous, pedigree of reaching a Wimbledon final. And
hi, Jack. Your last 2 Grand Slam defeats to Cilic and Bublik, both players, it felt like at times were playing 10 out of 10 tennis. Do you feel like there are still questions for you to solve in terms of like finding a way to disrupt these players who feel like they're absolutely redlining in the moment? And during this match today, were you thinking about that Bublik match in terms of just the level this guy was bringing to the court?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both of them played outstanding level. I've got to expect that now, because obviously I've got a bit of a target on my back with my ranking, and he's obviously someone who wants to get back to where he used to be. I think, yeah, there's definitely areas of my game where I need to, is he playing so well because I'm letting him play that way? Same with Bublik. Are they playing that well because I'm dropping the ball short? I'm not doing enough with the ball. I know they've still got to execute, and I think both of them were having amazing days. But that's what good players do; they punish you. So yeah, I mean, I think in some ways it's a good thing. It highlighted a lot of areas in my game which I need to continue to improve on if I want to be, consistently a top player and going deep in these slams, because everyone's a great player and you're going to come unstuck if you're not good enough.
Perhaps when we were looking at the draw, we were so focused on Bublik round 3, Djokovic in the quarters, perhaps, and we didn't look close enough at round 2. And Marin Cilic, big hitting show from him today to knock Jack out. And like we heard just before from Jack, when he comes up against these players who are redlining, like you asked him in press, he's got to find a new sort of strategy to handle that, because he is being punished, like he said, from these players, and seemingly coming a cropper. And his slam results this year, 2 round 4s and a round 2, not living up to his seeded billing. Do you think he's done worse here on the grass as well, and as compared to the clay and the hard? Is grass his worst surface, would you say, Joel?
I mean, he's certainly not performing up to the standards I think we've seen him on other surfaces this season. And in press, he was very honest in terms of the grass court season is very short. I don't think it's necessarily gone the way he wanted to. I think he was actually a little bit surprised, given the way he was playing, that he was able to get to the semi-finals in Queens. And perhaps from a British fan point of view, that sort of lulled people into thinking, oh, he is a contender at Wimbledon. But the reality is his grass court game, he's sort of been searching for top form at Wimbledon and at Queens. I mean, yes, he played Sebastian Baez in the first round, but you couldn't really read too much into that. And when he came up against someone who's got so much experience, of grass court tennis in Marin Cilic, he really, I feel like, just wasn't able to kind of react enough to the situation. Yes, he did kind of come back in that third set, to take it to a fourth, but it was a little bit too little, too late. And Marin Cilic was just reading Jack Draper's serve so well. I don't feel like Draper was really that comfortable on the majority of his service games. His forehand as well wasn't working, and at times he cut a really frustrated figure on the court. And one thing that kind of took me by surprise was the fact that there were a few calls that were called by the electronic line call system. Not, there are no line umpires on the court, and he said in press afterwards he doesn't think they are accurate. He does not think the AI is accurate, and he would like to see the line umpires. I get the sense that he would like to be able to challenge on the court, because he was not convinced with quite a few of the calls that went against him today.
I mean, I did see on the match point, though, I thought 2 of Jack's were perhaps long and they weren't called. So, maybe it works both ways. But yeah, that's interesting that maybe he doesn't trust it, and perhaps that plays at the back of his mind. I mean, how much also do you think that the weight and expectation and hopes of a nation in post-Murray era were weighing on his mind, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, in press afterwards, he actually said, wow, playing with this added pressure and expectation makes me appreciate even more just what Andy Murray did, with history, weight of a nation on his shoulders, and win 2 Wimbledon titles. I think that really put that into perspective. So perhaps there is also that little bit of adjustment. I think that he's still finding his feet as kind of a top dog. He came in here as the 4th seed. That really has been the story, I think, this season at Grand Slams. He's coming in with a target on his back now, and he's not really been able to kind of live up to it. Round 4 at the Australian Open, round 4 at the French Open, round 2 here. So I do think he needs to be able to think about, okay, how do I embrace that a bit more? And yeah, how do I find a way to disrupt these players who are playing 10 out of 10 tennis? Because it's not the first time it has happened. And it's sort of like he's a little bit passive and a little bit kind of powerless to kind of do anything. And I wonder if, he needs to think about, what are some strategies I could bring? Could I bring in the drop shot a little bit more? Could I, come to the net a little bit more? Thinking about how I can disrupt Marin Cilic's game, because at times it was just a little bit too comfortable for him.
Yeah, pressure is a privilege, not, a strain, hopefully. But there will be more Wimbledons to come for Jack Draper, and let's hope he fares better. It was also a loss for Dan Evans up on centre court to open the day against Novak Djokovic. Djokovic losing just 5 games in this one, 3-2 and love. He got past Dan Evans. So his Dan Evans' winning record is over. Djokovic was extremely comfortable, and as the match wore on, he just ran away with it.
Completely different, Kim, to their one other match on the tour, because I completely forgot about this, but Dan Evans defeated Novak Djokovic at Monte Carlo, I think back in 2021, in straight sets, no less. But I know the conditions had a massive role to play in that match, and this was the complete opposite. I mean, you were on the court for it. The one question I wanted to ask you, because there's been a lot of talk about Novak Djokovic and the performances he has brought in rounds 1 and 2. Is this the best that Novak Djokovic has looked, do you think, in his quest for Grand Slam 25? We've been in this scenario quite a few times. How good do you think he has looked?
Yeah, today I just thought there's no way this guy is not making at least the semi-finals here. Everything he did worked, basically. Like he said afterwards, that it was one of those days where he executed, everything just went his way. And it was, I really enjoyed the first set, especially. It was such good, entertaining, kind of all court, classic grass court tennis. I thought, Dan Evans employing that, his famous slice and kind of trying all sorts of things to get, Djokovic. But inevitably, Djokovic got the break, towards the end of the set and served it out after, and just kind of went from strength to strength. And, Evans was trying so hard to kind of cling on to his serve in that opener. And it was, there's some really enjoyable tennis, but Djokovic just, as the match wore on, it just went from, from good to perfect, really. And I mean, what we saw from Jannik Sinner as well today, almost flawless, so dominant. I really don't think anyone else in their half draw has a chance to contend with either of them if they continue to play like they both did today. I mean,
Djokovic, with Djokovic, the fact that Draper's gone out you in his quarter, you feel like he is certainly one of the big winners. And, he was I feel like he's so relaxed as well. Perhaps maybe a little bit too relaxed in that first round match where he did have that little blip after having all those break points. But he is just in a good mood at the moment. And, more history beckons for him, because he's 99 and 12 on the lawns of SW19. He could be reaching for that 100th victory at Wimbledon in round 3. And listeners, I don't know if you heard at the very beginning, he was talking about margaritas, wasn't he, Kim?
Yeah, he was basically asked on his on-court interview after the match, how he would be, I think, reflecting back on his, Wimbledon and his career. Obviously 99 wins here. He'll be on for 100. You expect that to come against Kekmanovic in the next round. And he said, I think one day in the future I'll be on a beach sipping margaritas with Federer and Nadal. And everyone, the crowd loved that, big cheer. Definitely got, warmed the crowd up.
Not Blue WKD, not Woo Woo, not Hugo's.
I know. Well, funnily enough, in his press conference then, Djokovic, like you heard earlier, was like, I've never even had a margarita. So it's one of those examples of when something just comes out of your mouth,
to your head, doesn't it?
Without thinking about it. I've definitely had moments like that. So I can totally relate.
I'm sure Wimbledon were like, just say jug of Pimm's. Jug of Pimm's.
Be on brand.
Margarita. Where's that come from? Oh, no.
I know. Well, Jannik Sinner, if he was going to be on the Pimm's to celebrate his win today, I'm sure he would have been, but I'm sure he's too professional for that. He also only lost 5 games to beat Aleksandar Vukic. Not too much to say about his match, really, because it was flawless. So he marches on. Someone who also continues their run through, Jaume Munar. He continued with a resurgent performance over Marichan. So we all thought he'd be up for Jack Draper in the third round. He will now face Marin Cilic. And we also have Alex de Minaur through against Arthur.
We all thought we were
Fizzo.
getting Draper Bublik. We got Munar Cilic.
Well, yes, it's sometimes just how it goes. But we have another seed out, Joel, don't we, in the men's? Because Thomas Mačák, 23rd seed, is out to world number 192, August Holmgren, who is a Danish qualifier who has had, his best run of his career. First time at this stage of a Grand Slam, first win over a top 30 player. And I mean, I was sort of in the vicinity of this win, and I could hear all the crowd chanting his name, and people loving this win over Mačák. So
this was unbelievable. I mean, a great story. 4.5 hours. He's actually played 2 matches at Wimbledon where he has been match points down, because in the final qualifying round, he was 3 match points down against Watanuki, was able to come through. And again, against Mačák, was match points down and able to come through. So it's an unbelievably battling performance. He's also been down and out on other occasions in qualifying. I think he was a set and a breakdown in qualifying round 1, a set and a breakdown in qualifying round 2. I feel like he needs to kind of channel this and be like, how can I start better? Because it feels like he finishes really strongly.
Yeah, and I didn't know really much about him, but he's 27, so he's not sort of, just starting out. So maybe he will carry on the hopes of Danish men's tennis now that Holger Rune's not performing. So we'll look to August Holmgren. But let's take a very quick break now. We'll be back in the second half to discuss all the women's action from day 4 at Wimbledon, including how Iga Swiatek got on against the American Caty McNally on centre court. And we'll be looking ahead to day 5 as well, where we've got the world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, up against Great Britain's Emma Raducanu. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, brought to you by Babolat. And it's time now to look at the women's results from day 4. We had the number 8 seed, Iga Swiatek, overcoming Caty McNally in 3 sets. She dropped the first set after having been, a breakup, McNally coming back, and but Iga managing to pull it out the bag by 2 sort of quite dominant scorelines in the second and third set. But she lives to fight another day, and she will face Danielle Collins in the third round. Funnily enough, Swiatek has still not lost before this stage of a slam since 2019 at the US Open. So, she hasn't been having, the best sort of past year, but she at least is still sort of maintaining her slam record, getting through
Mertens like round 3 consistency. Well, actually a little bit better than that, because only Novak Djokovic has made more round 3s since 2019 at Grand Slams. So she is a model of consistency from that point of view. And what I was really impressed by her against Caty McNally was just the number of break points that she saved. 13 or 15 break points saved today. And although those set 2 and set 3 score lines looked kind of convincing on paper, I thought they were actually a little bit closer than that, and maybe did Caty McNally a little bit of a disservice. But a good victory for Swiatek. I'm still not sure if we can call her a contender just yet. I think we'll know a little bit more when she faces Danielle Collins in the third round. They've had some blockbuster matches, over their rivalry, including obviously, of course, at Grand Slams. But this perhaps a good tune-up for another American.
Yeah, Collins actually won their most recent encounter in Rome on the clay just recently. But, it's grass here. Swiatek's kind of coming through, and, a lot of the other top seeds have fallen. And she was actually asked about that in press in kind of relation to the consistency at the top of the tour. So let's just have a listen to what she had to say.
I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. And also, I remember you guys asking me questions why there's no consistency on WTA. So, and then I don't feel that because like me and Arena and Coco have been winning a lot. Like like sometimes we will lose early because the schedule is pretty crazy. You can't win like everything. I feel like on grass there are many upsets every year. So it's a surface where we shouldn't like really, I don't know. It doesn't really matter what happens here when we go to the hardcourt seasons, I would say.
It's so funny that I think she kind of talks about the grass court season. It's almost like an oddity in the sense that it is so short that you can't really kind of compare it to anything else. You almost have to like take it out of context and just treat it as its own thing. And that's why I think she was kind of talking about the fact that we just get so many crazy results because you can't really kind of look at form going into the grass court season. You just have to kind of be prepared to kind of see what happens. And again, kind of going into the kind of the US hardcourt swing and back to clay, you can't really tell what it's gonna mean for the future.
Yeah, it's almost like it's just its own world come the summer. It's sort of escapism from the reality of the real tour, perhaps. But yeah, Swiatek, can we consider her a threat? Given that obviously a lot of the other seeds have gone, and perhaps she's coming in. She did reach the Bad Homburg final.
She did well not to win it. I think
yeah, that would have been a curse.
I think that would have been a big curse given what we've seen with all the seeds going out. I think for these top seeds, it's almost like staying in the game is the main objective at the moment, given all the stuff that is going on around them. But certainly, I think Swiatek's an interesting one, even just getting used to the fact that she's the number 8 seed. But we know that she struggles, I think, against big hitters, and again coming up with against Danielle Collins on a grass court, that is going to be a lot more formidable, I think, than someone like a Caty McNally. So I think we'll know a lot more with Swiatek versus Collins, but definitely looking forward to that one.
And just one thing on Swiatek, apparently she has been a bit naughty. She's been pinching towels. She's been pocketing Wimbledon towels for members of her team, perhaps, which isn't technically allowed, even though you're, top tennis
You
player.
could do what you want, Kim, when you're Iga Swiatek. No, she was kind of pressed on this in interview in front of like the whole of centre court, which I thought was like,
awkward.
I was like, oh, okay, am I going to be getting a call from the All England club? But she said she loves the tradition of the towels and she's been sharing them with her team. Kim, to be honest, I would. Can she share them for us, because they're quite an expensive piece in the shop. So maybe there's like a sort of backdoor route via the players.
Well, I think in the next press conference we just straight out ask her, can we have a towel, please, Iga?
Yeah. Oh, is your bag really heavy from all those towels? We're happy to make your bag lighter. Yes.
I want a nice clean one though. I don't want sweat on it. But other seeds that have made their way through, Mirra Andreeva and Elena Rybakina, both through on court 1 today. Andreeva defeating Bronzetti and Rybakina defeating Sakkari in straight sets. I mean, Rybakina, very comfortable, especially on her serve today. Joel, you saw a bit of Rybakina today. Definite contender for the title, given how she performed today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, her serve was incredible. She dropped just 2 points on her first serve against Sakkari, which is the third highest first serve points won percentage in a single completed Grand Slam main draw match in her career. So it just shows the rhythm that she is in on her serve at the moment. Sadly, I feel like there's not really much to say beyond that against Maria Sakkari. I was hoping she would test her a little bit more, but sadly, it's the same Sakkari we see at Grand Slam, so not too much to read into that. But more interestingly, perhaps, Mirra Andreeva against Bronzetti. I thought this was quite an interesting one. A little bit of a slow burner. Bronzetti, not really anywhere in that first set, but came back into it in the second and did push Andreeva. And I was sort of catching up with Andreeva, in kind of news articles. And she has been on record to say grass is not her favourite surface. It's her worst surface. And I can sort of understand that. I still watch her, and I think, that it's still a work in progress. For me, she maybe is not as aggressive as she could be. There was a few too many kind of forehand slices on show, but there are certainly other parts of her game that definitely can make up for that. I mean, her at the net, we know her doubles prowess, I think, is very strong. And yeah, she'll be an interesting one to watch, given, perhaps, the improvements that maybe she can make on grass this season, because I think, she set herself up in terms of expectation at the start of the year on the hard courts, but grass, maybe she's going a little bit more under the radar.
Well, she's still young. She's learning. She's had, a really fantastic first 6 months of the year.
She did say, Conchita Martinez, afterwards, she's a hard taskmaster. She was like, oh, yes, we will be back onto the courts for training. Thank you for that, Conchita. So, yeah, I do love their dynamic. I think
nice.
That's a really good, that's a really, really strong dynamic, I think, that they've got going. It sounds like, Martinez is a very, she wants to get the most out of Andreeva. But they, I think, do it in a very kind of constructive way that doesn't feel too forceful, which I think is really nice, because we've got to remember Andreeva is still very much a teenager.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very impressive what she's doing, and I'm adjusting to the grass with each round. Barbora Krejcikova, defending champion, she's also through 3 sets it took her over Caroline Dolehide. So yeah, still kind of finding her form since coming back from her
She's in a nice part of
layoff.
She's in a very nice part of the draw, I think. I think it's around where Mirra Andreeva is as well. Like, if I would want to place myself somewhere in the draw, it would be around there, because it does look like it's opened up potentially for both of them. I think Barbora is in a better position, just because of what happened last year. I feel like she's the more comfortable on the grass. Yes, but getting through is the name of the game with all of these seeds going out.
Absolutely. And we did have a historic moment as well in the women's side of things for Turkish tennis. World number 88, Zeynep Sönmez. She's from Turkey, the first Turkish player to have reached the 3rd round in singles at a Grand Slam in the Open era. So she beat Jinju Wong, who I thought was going to actually win that one. She's, had a good grass sort of season, and I thought Wong was going to come through and be a bit of a surprise contender here. But nope, Sönmez has got the better of her, and yeah, good for Turkish tennis there, making history.
And Kim, one other weird quirk I wanted to bring up was the quirk that is Veronika Kudermetova, because I was reading that she has lost to the eventual Wimbledon champion in the last 2 editions of Wimbledon. She lost last year to Barbora Krejcikova, and the year before she lost to Marketa Vondrousova, and she lost today to Emma.
Drum roll. Who did she lose to?
She lost to Emma Navarro.
Okay.
So I don't know what that means, but I also know that it means that Emma Navarro is winning the Wimbledon ladies title.
Place your bets now. Well, I mean, it may happen. I think that is possible. Who knows?
Okay.
You
need that Kudermetova result in your favour.
Absolutely, tick that off, and it has to be Veronika, not Polina Kudermetova specifically.
Very true.
But on that, let's have a look at the order of play for day 5. Centre court action. Taylor Fritz is up against Davidovich Fokina. Fritz will be hoping that he doesn't have to go to 5 sets.
If they deliberately put that match on first on, so he's not playing till 11 p.m. at night.
The curfew will not.
He'll find a way. He'll find a way, won't he?
That is followed by Struff against Alcaraz, and then we have got Sabalenka Raducanu, the tea time match for the British crowd. I guess putting that on that time, maybe there'll be some rowdy resellers in, riling Sabalenka up, perhaps.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, very interesting. We also got Paris from France against Cartal on number 1 with Nori Bellucci and Mertens Svitolina. Before we do some predictions, Kim, I want to hear what you think about Sabalenka Raducanu. Mertens Svitolina on number 1. I'm just thinking, what has Naomi Osaka or Madison Keys got to do to get on a show court?
Well, I mean, clearly winning a Grand Slam is just not
enough, is it?
These days. Yeah, Osaka Pavlyuchenkova as well. I mean, that's quite a good, tasty matchup, I think. And
or even Alice them over.
Anisimova as well. Yeah, obviously Queen's finalist. I guess they've got to vary it up a bit. Maybe they think Svitlina's going to go on a bit of a run, or Mertens maybe. I don't know. But Raducanu Sabalenka, I think Sabalenka's still winning. I think she's going to have a bit too much.
Straight sets, 3 sets.
Oh,
final set tiebreak.
7-5, 6-3.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What about yourself?
I'm going to say Sabalenka, but in 3 sets. I think Raducanu is good for a set. I just worry maybe that she's going to get hit off the court. Whether she's going to kind of struggle with that aspect of Sabalenka's game. But we'll have to see the Sabalenka temperament as well and see how she handles the occasion. Because, I mean, this is probably the biggest occasion she's had since that French Open final. It's going to be a very similar, situation, I think, at times. She's going to step out knowing the crowd is going to be 100% pro Raducanu. Like, at times it was very pro Goff in that, French Open women's final. So it'll be interesting to see how she handles the situation.
I think if she's, performing well, playing good tennis and in a winning position, I think even the crowd won't bother her. But I think if she doesn't perform like she didn't bring her A game in that French Open final, which was her whole argument afterwards, then perhaps the crowd will start to get to her. So yeah, I still think she's got too much for Emma. But, from a British perspective, I would hope that Norrie would get the win and perhaps Cartel.
Yeah.
Not sure how Cartel's going to do on a show court for the first time. Maybe I would have left her on a sort of court 3 where she maybe is more comfortable. But I would hope we've got one of the 3 at least coming through from a British perspective. But let's see. And Alcaraz, I think will be a sort of fairly comfortable win. I'm predicting as well.
Well, we still have some Brits left in the draw, so let's see how they get on tomorrow. But that wraps up our Wimbledon Day 4 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action from Wimbledon. We are producing daily episodes. This is episode 4, Day 4. We've got a lot more episodes in the bank to come across the fortnight. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can stay connected with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X at Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can contact us on all of those platforms or drop us an email on tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or visit our website at tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Friday for our Wimbledon Day 5 catch-up, brought to you by Babolat. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.